Zagred is the high-ranking devil that dominated the elf reincarnation saga. He had tremendous mana, which when paired with his terrifying word soul magic, made him a cataclysmic threat to the continent. Though it seems that his power has long since been surpassed with the introduction of a training arc that was meant to fight even stronger devils, as well as characters already comparable to Zagred getting drastically stronger. What if Zagred is actually stronger than we thought? In the latest chapter of the Black Clover manga, Zenon would break his limits via devil contract, gaining a devil heart and essentially becoming a devil. He would get drastically stronger, and Yuno would compare his presence to Zagred. Zagred being compared to characters above the 100% Triad? I thought this would be impossible. Could this mean that I was wrong about Zagred's power? Does this mean he is really stronger than I thought? Stronger than we thought? Well, no, actually. I'll explain to you why using this page to place Zagred's power to the level of a Devil Heart Zenon is just fallacious extrapolation, and that there is a preponderance of evidence that Zagred is not at the level of the Dark Triad. I had a lot of people coming at me once this chapter came out, saying that I was an idiot for ever claiming that Zagred was ever weaker than the Triad. But let us actually examine the page from chapter 307 and explain it in full context. A little warning, I will get into some power scaling in this video, but the majority of the first part of this video will not feature any power scaling, just analyzing how everything is portrayed. So, in chapter 307, Zenon gets the Devil Heart, and Yuno says, "This feeling, he's like that guy." Yuno says that as he envisions Zagred. Then Zenon says, "Now that I've acquired a Devil's Heart, my strength is even more devastating." Now people are taking this and saying that because Yuno is comparing Zenon to Zagred, and Zenon claims he has gotten stronger, that this means that Zagred and Devil Heart Zenon are equal in power. But just stopping here is actually not showing the full context of what is really going on. Let's run it back. Zenon gets the Devil Heart, and Yuno says, "This feeling, he's like that guy," he says as he envisions Zagred. Then Zenon says, "Now that I have acquired a Devil's Heart, my strength is even more devastating." Then it shows Longris, who thinks to himself, he uses a devil's power. He has a devil's heart. Isn't any human like that already a devil? Now this right here, Longris' dialogue provides the full context of what really is going on here. Yuno is only comparing Zenon to Zagred because Zenon is now a devil himself. This makes sense because we know that devils have different types of mana compared to humans and other races. When Megicula is revealed in chapter 254, you see the Undine think to herself, that hideous magic, not the power of it, how hideous it is. This is not her power. Monica had already activated the curse-warding magic decaying world when she was in 70%. It is similar to how elves and dwarves had different types of mana, as Lyra was able to determine that Charmy was dwarven just by sensing the presence of her mana. Adding more to this, in chapter 204, Sekira's flashback of Lumiere, Lumiere is able to detect the type of mana that is within the priest and is able to immediately tie that to a devil, a soul with malicious mana. I have read about these, beings from the underworld. A devil? Yami has a similar interaction when he sees that Zagred is pure malice in chapter 201, which harkens at Lumiere's description of pure malice. Keep in mind that none of the Dark Triad are ever stated to have terrifying or malicious mana, only Vonica when Megicula is present. Even though that is because it was just Megicula's presence. She is partially manifested at that point thanks to the soul of Asier Silva. And then finally, you have Zenon as well, only after gaining a Devil Heart. This is because, that like Longris confirms, Zenon is a devil now. He now has malicious mana. Yuno is comparing Devil Zenon to the devil Zagred, simply because Zagred is the only devil that Yuno has ever seen. He never saw the Twin Devils, nor any of their army from the gate. This is all happening away from the fight. This is like with Asta when he finally is confronted to Liba. He compares Liba to Zagred, because that was the only other devil that Asta had ever seen. So there you go, Zenon was only compared to Zagred because of the feeling of his mana, that negative, malicious mana. When Yuno thinks of Zagred, he doesn't even think of his power. He thinks of Zagred when he first saw him, because that would be the first time he sensed the malicious mana. If you really think that Boreas Yuno would lose to Zagred when he was first revealed, when he was suppressing his true power, and had yet to possess a 5-leaf Clover Grimoire, then I don't think we are reading the same manga. Yuno never mentions Zagred or Zenon's power. It is Zenon saying he's gotten stronger, which of course, that's what happens when you become a devil. When Lolopechika became a devil, she became way stronger than she ever was with the spirit, despite not having the spirit now. So yeah, Zenon is stronger because he's a devil. But just because there's a comparison here, and no power is mentioned in that comparison, when you just read it, he's like that guy. He's saying he's comparable to that guy, not in power. So now that I've gone over this page, the entire context of it, and what devils are like in Black Clover, going over Zenon, Yuno, and Longris' statements, we can now go over the power scaling that backs this up, that Zagred is nowhere near Devil Heart Zenon. Now before I want to put a power scale to this, I need to remind people that mana and even anti-magic are both energy systems. A lot of people get confused, or they just plain forget that when mana is increased, so is power, speed, durability, attack potency, etc. Like when Owen and Marks turn into elves, it increases their mana drastically. The Yami states they are faster and stronger. When characters use Mana Zone, they are pulling in nature's mana and combining it with their own mana, making themselves faster and stronger. It's really the same with anti-magic. Whenever Asta increases anti-magic, he is faster and stronger. So, that's why I bring up why all this scaling essentially proves that Zagred wouldn't be considered that strong in this arc. And speaking of Zagred, it's a huge no-limits fallacy that people use for his word soul magic. They think it be essentially go against anything, because it is portrayed to be pretty strong in that arc, but a lot of people forget that there is still a limit to his magic. It's even discovered by Sharla and Yami that he has to put magic into his words when he speaks it, so that means it does have a limit. It is limited to how much mana and how powerful his mana is. He can't just tell people to die. He tries to do it, and it doesn't work. He tells even people to be riddled with holes, and it doesn't even work. So we know there is limits to his magic, and because his mana is the limit to it and how much he can put into his words, and his mana is way lesser, like Lilith and Nama, it doesn't really check out that his word soul magic is going to be able to kill them when they couldn't kill way lesser characters. So, we know that Asta had gotten way stronger over the course of the 6-month time skip as stated by Gaja. If you go by anime canon, there's multiple statements between the 6-month time skip that claimed he got way stronger, so you can say that Asta got way stronger 3 different times throughout the 6-month time skip. Not only this, but he controls anti-magic much better after the time skip. He can just easily go into his black form too, with a much bigger black divider than what was used against Zagred. So this Asta would be far stronger, more durable, and faster, more able with his anti-magic than what he did against Zagred 6 months prior. So he's way faster, stronger, more durable, and a better fighter than the same Asta who could damage Zagred, take many attacks from Zagred, as well as fast enough to hit him and parry his attacks. Yet this Asta, who dwarfs the previous Asta that Zagred had struggles with, was getting toyed with by Dante in his base form. Gauche would make 13 clones of this Asta, which forced Dante to use only 50% of his devil power to escape them. Zagred could not escape a much weaker Asta, who was paired with a comparable Spirit Dive Yuno. Yet Dante only gets much stronger from here on out, using 60% devil mana, with a single percentage increase stated to be a phenomenal increase in power, and he would hold Asta down like he was nothing. Asta would then unlock his Berserk form, or Black Form 3, who would still get no diff by 60% Dante. But after making a deal with his devil, he would gain a devil arm, and when pairing his devil arm with Black Form 2, he would be relative to 80% Dante. Then on top of that, Asta can now go Devil Union and fight Supreme Devils like Lilith and Nama. Zenon was said to be near Supreme Devil level, so do you really think that if this version of Asta was comparable to Zagred, when Asta was in Black Form with 2 horns, with the Black Divider, he was comparable to Zagred. Then he gets much stronger over the course of the time skip. He gets Black Form 3 on top of that, Devil Arm on top of that, and then Devil Union on top of that. That puts him at Supreme Devil level because he could fight 2 at once and defeat him, and Zenon is near Supreme Devil level at 100%. Do you really think that Zenon is weaker than Zagred based on what we know about this? And don't even think about comparing Black Form 1 Asta or a non-Black Divider Asta to Zagred when he struggled against him earlier on. Those are weaker versions of Asta. That's not what we're comparing in this video. It's like comparing a base Goku to Frieza, even though he has a Super Saiyan form. We're not using weaker forms in this comparison. Furthermore, in the back of one of the volumes for the Spade arc, they said the villains would get much stronger, and the Dark Triad were the main villains of that arc, which would also then imply the Dark Triad are above Zagred. Also, when Olapechka saw a much weaker version of Vanica pre-time skip, she thought that she was at the level of Zagred, which, remember, Vanica got way stronger and better at using Devil Mana over the time skip. She implies that her using 70% is a new level for her, and the last level we saw before her training was only 50%. So Olapechka fought a weaker base Vanica, using a likely 50% devil form, and thought that she was stronger than Zagred. And do I even need to bring up that Zagred is just a high-ranking devil, which is a lesser rank than the supreme rank of Lilith and Nama, and while you can say that ranks are meaningless in the Clover Kingdom military, well, Megicula states like pretty much over and over again that rank is way more important in the devil. Devils don't overthrow higher ranked devils, because that's how their society is based. So, if Lilith and Nama are supreme ranks, and you have Zagred at high rank, so there's a lot of videos I've made on the subject, which can go in tandem with this video, and go in more in depth with the power scaling. I could go over and over and over and over again, but there goes even further more. So, I'm gonna go full smooth brain, and just straight up prove to you that Zagred really ain't shit, Now, one of the common refutations that Zagred defenders use to prove that he is still a strong fighter is by saying that Yuno isn't very strong this arc because he lost his elven mana, and that Asta is worried that they're gonna have to fight devils without Licht and Lumiere. Well, for one, Asta cannot sense mana, so he did not even know how strong Licht and Lumiere were. This is proven when he doesn't even know how strong Fusion Lilith is. Remember, Licht and Lumiere, when they teamed up to fight Zagred, this was a suppressed Zagred, whereas Asta and Yuno actually were the only two that fought Zagred at his full power. So, literally in that arc, Asta and Yuno scale above literally that version of Licht and Lumiere. And no, those are not the weakened versions of Licht and Lumiere. I'll have an entire video of how strong Devil Union Asta is. I'm going to go over every argument and prove that he's essentially the strongest quote-unquote human in the series. And how about we just actually read Asta's statement from chapter 228. This is him after hearing that version of Vanica was as strong, if not stronger, than Zagred. Last time we had help from some people who were completely off the charts. The first Wizard King and the leader of the elves. That's the only reason we somehow managed to win. We've got to get stronger. And if you read the last sentence of his statement, we've got to get stronger, you know what that means? That if they get stronger, they'd be fine without the Wizard King and Licht. They'd be fine without Licht and Lumiere. And they got way stronger, like I said. But anyways, back to the Yuno argument with the Golden Dawn essentially losing their power. People say that Yuno is not very strong this arc because he lost his elven mana. People will even claim that Boreas Yuno is weaker than Elven Yuno, which, it's atrocious. But anyways, this is because Letali admits that the Golden Dawn kept a small portion of their elven power, but they were overall weaker, and that in the 6 months, they had not gotten back to the level of their elven counterparts. Well, for one, this logic does not apply to Asta. He didn't lose an energy set like Yuno did. Asta just gained his Black Form 2 back, and not only uses that, but on much more powerful base on top of that. But anyways, this logic that Yuno is vastly weaker is also nonsense, even if it does not apply to Asta. What does Belle look like before Yuno goes elven? This. What does she look like after Yuno gains the elven mana boost? This. What does she look like after the time skip where Yuno does not have the elven boost anymore? Exactly the same as when Yuno was an elf. We know that a spirit grows with the power of their user. This is stated by Julius and confirmed when the salamander gets larger and stronger with the third eye power increase. And then Belle getting stronger with Yuno's elven increase. This would mean that post-time skip Yuno is at the very least the same level of his elven counterpart. Just because Letali and other Golden Dawn members didn't get stronger than their elven counterparts is not relevant to Yuno, who is confirmed to be a harder worker than anybody else besides Asta and having a much higher growth rate because of the 4-leaf clover. And Rill, who doesn't even work as hard as Yuno and should have a lower power growth rate than Yuno, surpassed his elven power during the time skip as Asta fought Lyra and said that Rill was better than ever after the time skip. Now people will say that Yuno's power looks weaker post time skip, as his crown is lesser and his spirit dive. This is mitigated though, as when Yuno activates Zephyr, that same level of spirit dive from his elven form is there, and his sword is actually even bigger now. This means that he would likely be stronger than his former elven power once he activates Spirit Dive Zephyr. It's important to note that once Yuno did activate Zephyr against Gadaroi, the battle shifted quickly in Yuno's favor. In Yuno's bout with Zenon, Zenon was using an unknown amount of devil mana and was stated to be vastly superior to the Dark Disciples he had brought, even further above 50% Disciples. And Yuno, despite being weakened, was able to react and parry attacks from Zenon, even destroying his bones, though Zenon would eventually activate 55% devil mana and defeat Yuno. Now this is important because we saw what Spirit Zephyr Yuno did against Zagred, and yet this Yuno was even stronger and was defeated so easily by Zenon. Yuno then had to train and had Belle store up mana, and her new look just confirms that Yuno is way stronger than his elven self now, as she has 4 wings before she goes Boreas, which is way stronger than she ever was as an elf. And also, he has the full Spirit Dive, so yeah, he's way stronger. So, 55% Zenon, who already had more impressive feats than Zagred, gets 25 amps of power from the 80% devil mana, and yet Boreas Yuno no diffs 80% Zenon. Then Zenon gets another 20 amps when he gets 100% devil power. Yuno is able to survive, though he is weaker, and then with the help of Longris, he gains Eurus by storing up more power, which is strong enough and fast enough to hit and kill Zenon, if not for him making a devil's bargain and becoming a devil himself. So there's my explanation. Letali claiming the Golden Dawn is weaker than the elves is irrelevant because Rill got stronger than his elven counterpart, and Yuno has a better growth rate than Rill. Belle having pointy ears proves she's at least the same power as the elven arc. And Yuno having the same level of magic display and Spirit Dive proves that as well, and the Zephyr sword is bigger, which would imply he is actually stronger than his elven counterpart. Just because Asta thought it would be harder to defeat devils without Licht and Lumiere is irrelevant, because yeah, it would be harder because they were great support, Anyways, Asta cannot sense magic power, that's why he doesn't know exactly how strong Fusion Lilith is, so this makes this statement kind of meaningless, since Asta and Yuno actually fought Zagred when he was at his true full power, whereas Licht and Lumiere never did. So yeah guys, Asta and Yuno were both pretty close in power to Zagred. If you watch the fight, they were above Licht and Lumiere in feats, and they got way stronger over the course of the series. Since then, with a 6-month time skip and then another short time skip after before the invasion of the Spade, Zagred is not doing anything to Xenon. He's just not. Zagred is not stronger than we thought. This has caused a huge confusion in the community, thinking that Zagred is actually pretty strong and that he's as strong as Devil Heart Xenon, but no, from everything that we have, it just does not make sense from the series standpoint. But let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, turn on notifications. Hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...